Hey guys, I'm Lee, this is Patrick, and today we're going to be helping you figure out what you need to have on your photography website and portfolio. So the website company Format recently reached out to us and they sponsored this video, and they basically asked us to go through 4 different photographers' websites and talk about what you should have on your website in terms of a portfolio, contact page, all that sort of detail, and talk about maybe what you might want to leave off of your website, things like pricing or client proofing, details like that. So I think at this point maybe we should just jump right in and start with the first photographer.
All right, so the first website we're going to be looking at is Matt Fur, and as you can see, he kind of has like a landing page when you go to mattfur.com, and it allows you to go to your portfolio or his Instagram, and I assume this takes you right to his Instagram page, which is kind of cool because a lot of people these days, this is their portfolio.
Instagram has changed the game, and I'm ashamed to say I'm not on Instagram. I tried to do Instagram for Fstoppers recently when we were in Alaska, and I just don't get it. But I understand this is the industry now.
A lot of people are getting booked through Instagram. So you just click there, they see your following, and a lot of times that's what's really making and breaking the industry at this point.
Yeah, there's a huge movement towards hiring influencers rather than just photographers, and a lot of influencers are also good at video and photography, and so it's almost like they're hiring a photographer and they're hiring a celebrity endorsement as well for their product. But anyway, we can get back to the website.
So if we go to his portfolio here, this is going to bring up the Format website that he has designed, and as you can see instantly, you have contact, portfolio, films, projects, concerts, Instagram, and Matt. So what do you think about the layout up here?
I mean, the number one most important thing obviously is the photos. There's a photo right off the bat, and it looks like you scroll down to actually see the photos. I like that. It's simple. It's right off the bat. You're not having to click again to get into photos. And then when it comes to the navigation, everything is super simple. It's right across the top. I'm not getting lost finding anything. So I think that's most important. One thing that might be a little bit strange is that the first page that you see is portfolio, but the first thing that you can actually click on is contact. So that's maybe a little strange, but let's click on contact and see what there is here. So the interesting thing that Matt's done is he's separated the contact and the about page. I would imagine if we go over here and we click on Matt.
It's got to be a picture of Matt.
Yeah, this is going to be about him, and
it's interesting. It also tells you the gear that he's using.
Yeah, normally that's something that I would not suggest you do. I think that if you have a gear list, in many cases it kind of cheapens you, but obviously Matt's work is incredible, so I'm not going to tell him he should be doing anything different.
And I know in the film world, a lot of times companies want to know what you're shooting with. I know with a lot of our friends here in town, if you don't have a specific type of camera,
that may be true, but I think that's usually for the highest end cameras. So, I've heard of clients saying you have to be shooting with an Arri or a Red, or else we won't hire you. I don't think you're going to win over any clients shooting with a Sony a7R III, but anyway, interesting choice. Let's click on films. Let's see if he does video as well.
So again, film lands you right back on another contact page, which is kind of interesting.
I think that's smart. I mean, make it as easy as possible for your potential clients to be able to contact you. And one other interesting tip, this is something that I always did on my websites when I had websites other than Fstoppers. I would have a contact field that you could fill out if you wanted to, but then I also put my email address there. I personally hate filling out contact fields, and I feel like they're not necessarily reliable, and I don't ever know if it's sent or it didn't send. I like sending emails directly to people, so I always made sure to put my email address on there as well, just give my potential clients an option. So these videos are incredible. I mean,
Cliff some more. I was just there this time last year.
Yeah.
One thing that I like to do with my contacts, my contact forms that I put on the websites, is I like to have a phone number field in there. And the reason is I feel like email is a great way to kind of touch base, but it's sometimes very slow to get responses back from email. So I know when I had a wedding website, I wanted to call the bride instantly and make that personal connection because I felt like I could win them over on phone way easier than I could trying to respond to an email. So if you don't want a lot of phone calls coming in, I understand why you wouldn't put that on there, but I personally like to have the phone number as much or more than the actual email address.
That the client would be sending you.
Yeah, because then I can go ahead and pick up the phone, I can call them.
That's a great point. I feel like so much time can be wasted, especially with commercial jobs and sometimes with wedding and stuff, but definitely with commercial jobs. If you're going back and forth with 5, 10 emails, you could literally call somebody on the phone, and with 3 to 5 minutes, you have all the information you need to then come up with an actual bid. Now, if you click on projects here, you can see that he's got his photos kind of separated by theme rather than just his favorite portfolio images. This is also an interesting way of showing your clients what a full job might look like, so you're not just showing them the best photo from a single job.
Once again, when I was shooting weddings, this is what brides wanted to see. They wanted to have a full wedding. And so the front of your website might be the best portfolio images you've ever taken throughout your career, or it might have a more general theme. But then having something like projects, I think, is really smart because it allows you to really put together a whole collection.
So if you click on concerts here, I guess he also shoots concert photography as well. And one thing that I like telling photographers is, in most cases, I think it's good to specialize in something. I think you can get much more money if you specialize in something. But I will say, Matt's work has a style that is cohesive throughout all of these different genres. So even though we are jumping from lifestyle type pictures to live concerts, I don't feel like he's leaving his style of photography, and it's all working together much more than, say, wedding photography and concert photography would.
How do you feel about many of these images being verticals and you have to scroll up and down to see the whole image? Instead of seeing a bunch of thumbnails where you get an idea of the whole picture and then you blow it up large, the way this site's designed, you're literally scrolling. I mean, you can see how long the scroll bar is there on the right.
Yeah, so this is something to definitely keep in mind. I know that all of these websites made by Format can work on a laptop, a desktop, an iPad, an iPhone. So basically you're creating a website that's going to work no matter how small you actually make the screen size. But keep in mind where your average clients are going to be viewing your website from. And if it's going to be viewed on an iPhone, you definitely want to design it for that vertical aspect ratio. And I think that's what's going on here, especially in this concert section. Most of these images are too tall to actually be seen on our screen here without scrolling. So just keep that in mind. I mean, I would imagine
you're going to open this up on every single device before you hit go live.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, taking a look at Matt's work, seeing how big he is on Instagram and everything, I would imagine his type of clients are finding him through Instagram, which most people visit on their cell phone. And this just seems like the more youthful style of photography going on right now. So I imagine most people are viewing this on mobile.
Should we move on to another website?
Let's do it.
All right, so this next website is seeandshoots.com.
So this website is interesting because you can scroll on the bottom scroll bar down below, or you can just click and it'll move over a few points.
What I like about this website is that all of the vertical images show up full screen. Like you're seeing every single photo. In fact, you're seeing 2 shots or even 3 at times all at once. I don't know what this would look like on the cell phone, but on a laptop, I feel like you're getting the full impact of each and every photograph.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you could scroll through these portfolios very quickly. I think the first website I ever built had thumbnails, really small thumbnails, and you had to go through and click each one and then hit the X and get out and go to the next one.
That's the worst.
It was a bad choice on my part. And I feel like this is kind of the new style for photography websites, and it's obviously much better. So he has people up top. That's the current gallery we're on. Auto is next. Let's click on that. And again, we're moving into a different genre of photography, definitely. But I would still say there's a lot of the same style going on here. I could imagine being hired by GMC to shoot a car, but you also have the people that are going to be driving the car, posing around the car. And so this is working for me. These 2 genres are really working.
And I think another thing to take note is if you're going to have multiple genres on your website like this, you really want to have, one, amazing photos, but you want to have a good portfolio. Imagine if this auto portfolio was like 6 images. You would almost feel like, oh, this is something he does on the side.
Unless they were really, really good images. And I think a lot of amateur photographers, we try so many different genres of photography when we're first getting started just because we're excited about photography and we want to take a picture of anything. But it's very obvious when you go to somebody's website and they're just starting out and they have, a little bit of every genre and nothing is very good. You can tell this guy's a professional car photographer. So when it comes to different genres on your website and everything, definitely put out only your best work. I mean, I feel like if I see a bad photograph on your website and I'm a potential client, I'm going to look to that image and I'm going to say, ooh, if we hire that guy, that image could come out of this job. I don't want to hire this guy anymore. So definitely put only your best work. And if you can, stick to a certain style at least, if not one specific genre.
So here we are on the next one. This is like his live portfolio, and there's probably like 10 images max here. Let's go to commercial. Looks like this guy does a little bit of everything. And I feel like with the commercial side of this website, it just kind of feels like there's really not a lot of content here. You have 2 shots of these rims, and then you have 2 shots of headphones, and then 2 more photographs. Like this doesn't really feel like this is his specialty. Do you feel like he should keep this on his website, or do you feel like he should really put some more images in here to fulfill this?
Yeah, to me, when it comes to the live section and the commercial section, the photos are great in my opinion, but it's just the quantity is a little low for them to have their own section. So I don't know if there's some way to combine them or combined people, commercial and live somehow, and not have it called people. It could just be called portfolio, and then it could be called auto portfolio. I don't know.
But I think the people portfolio there's enough images on that landing page to, I think, stand on its own.
But I just really like these product photos as well, so I'd hate to see him completely remove them from the site. I think he could definitely be hired.
Either
to shoot stuff
beef
like
this section up or combine it with another section to make it feel a little bit more.
What is views?
Views. So this is landscape photography. Look at that, he's got the rainbow in there.
Very Instagram-y, travel photographer feeling stuff. Really, really cool pictures.
Now, one thing this website has done is I still don't know the name of this photographer. And so he or she has marketed himself as a brand more than a person.
Mm-hmm. That's something that you definitely need to consider. And I have always leaned towards just using my name. But if there's a chance one day that you want to sell your business, it's much better to have a business name that's not your actual name.
This is a pretty cool photograph. I like that one.
Yeah.
So let's go to contact. And here is where I feel like you do want to have a name associated with it. Because at this point, you're just contacting see and shoots. And you don't really know who you're contacting. And I think a lot of the commercial world is all about making those personal connections. I find that more of my work's actually coming from things I've done on YouTube where people see me shooting, and it's that connection where we've always done the behind the scenes with Fstoppers. I think there's something to be said about showing yourself and your face and your personality and you shooting that allows a client to say, we got to hire that guy. Like, he's got it going on. We know what he does. We see how he works. This is kind of the opposite side of that, where we still don't know if this is a guy or a girl. We don't know their name.
I kind of feel, and I don't know if I should feel like this, but it kind of feels like they're hiding something. And if I was a potential client, maybe I wouldn't feel like that, but maybe 10% of your clients do feel like that. Why wouldn't this person actually? Yeah, but they do have Facebook and Instagram, so let's see what's on that.
Facebook.
Is it going to be a personal Facebook? No, it's not. It's a business. It's a business Facebook. So we still don't know what the guy looks like. So let's click on Instagram, see what's on that.
Okay, so it's Sean.
Okay, Sean. But even Sean, I can't see him in his picture here. He's a silhouette. But he looks like a fashionable dude with some really good looking hair, much better than mine. So like, show it off, man. If you're a young guy, that's a huge asset, especially in today's marketing world. I'd put your face on your website, and I would definitely put your name on your website.
So very cool website. Let's go to the next one, and I can tell from this tab, this is definitely branded as a person.
Yes, this is Jason Charles Hill, and starts out with a huge image, and then this guy is kind of like a scrolling animation that pushes that up.
You recognize this place?
Yep, we have photographed that recently.
So we have this featured image here, and then as we scroll up, it fades the featured image down. You can actually start to see these buttons at the top. And then it looks like it brings almost like another larger featured image that have these, you can do these next and previous buttons here. And that's just going through, I guess, all of these images separately.
And what happens if you keep scrolling? Is it thumbnails? So it's like really big thumbnails, and click on one of those.
It just takes you to the top.
Okay. I mean, this is definitely an interesting navigation choice. I think this still works, and especially comparing to my original website that's long gone now. I used to have very, very small thumbnails. You really couldn't see. This site, you can still navigate. You can see everything without actually clicking on the images, but if you wanted to make them bigger, you can click. All right, so what happens if you click on photo?
Oh, so look, it pulls up all these different locations.
So this guy's really selling himself as a, landscape photographer, and when you hover over photo, it's going to bring up an entire list of all the different locations so that if you're interested in a specific location, you can see just those images. I've been talking a lot about, separating genres. You don't want to be too large with your genre choices because no one will think that you're a specialist in any one of them. When I first started, you had to kind of choose to be a photographer or a videographer. They were very separate industries. Now they are so similar. I mean, the same cameras are capable of doing both. So you might as well shoot photos and video. And we've seen this with these photographers here. Not only are they incredible photographers, but they are unbelievable videographers as well. And I think you have to put that on your website. That's something that some of the biggest photographers in the world that we know, if you go to their website, maybe they personally don't run the camera, but they direct video. And so many clients now, even if they are only interested in photo or video, I don't think they're discriminating like they once did.
I think too with the video is it captures your attention much longer than a photograph. Like as photographers, I think we want to say, oh, my pictures are worth staring at for a long time.
Yeah.
The sad truth is I don't think they are. And so as videographers as well, when you produce something like this, I mean, I will sit here and let this play while we're talking because it's just so beautiful and it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
You're constantly bombarded with new, imagery. And I think the big idea is if you can keep people on your website longer, you're going to build that emotional attachment even more, and suddenly they're going to say, that guy with all those incredible drone videos all over the world, we got to get him, even if they might have preferred some of the images of another photographer. They remember that moving picture a little bit more than the still shots.
So if you guys shoot video, make sure that you choose a website that you can embed videos right into it. You don't want to just link out to your YouTube channel. I don't want to have to scroll through all the crap on your YouTube channel, but if the cream of the crop is right on the website and I can just click play and it starts, that is priceless.
Let's go to About.
We have a photo, we have About Him, and then I love this, the client section. And a lot of websites have just the names of the clients that they've shot for. He actually has a lot of these hyperlinked out, so you can actually click on them and it will go to the website of whom he's actually shot for. I think that's a nice touch.
Once again, we have Instagram. That's definitely common throughout all of these websites, and then other social media links.
It kind of makes you wonder, what should your Instagram be? Should it be a fun Instagram feed of you and your buddies goofing off, or should it be a portfolio, like a second portfolio of your photography? I'm not sure what the answer is, but it seems like each of these guys is actually using Instagram for business exclusively.
I think it's got to be business. You want these images to all be polished, and you want to scroll through this and say, this guy's work's incredible.
And again, so many people. I mean, this guy has 457,000 followers. That's like close to what Fstoppers in general has as followers. So a lot of clients, they want to hire a photographer, but then they also want to hire a photographer who can publish the images and get more views than they can actually pay for on their own. So they're willing to pay a huge premium if you have a following like this guy. So the next website is Zach's website. We actually got to meet Zach when we were up in Alaska at the Pro Photo event, and Zach is an amazing photographer. I asked him, what type of stuff do you shoot? We were like eating lunch or something, and he says, recently I've been shooting people with animals. And I'm like, what does that even mean? And then I went to his website and I was like, okay, he is doing it. So his pictures are unbelievable. I don't know how he gets these animals to do this stuff, but he's become huge on Instagram for this very reason. I mean, his pictures are off the wall. And the first thing that he has is a shop here. So if you click on shop, he actually sells some Lightroom presets and stuff, and this is another feature that Format has. So if there's anything that you are selling, if you want to sell prints or whatever through your website, this is something that Format does offer.
Now the front landing page is actually this welcome page that kind of gives you a little behind the scenes of who Zach is, and he's marketing himself very much with Sony and Instagram and his work.
And here's the reason probably why he's doing that. I don't assume he thinks people are going to read that. It's more of an SEO decision. At least it was for me when I was shooting weddings. You can put text on that landing page and Google will rank you higher if you're looking for a Charleston wedding photographer and you put that in the text.
If we keep going down the left sidebar, we get to gear and products. And again, Zach's decided to tell you everything he's shooting with. So this seems to be a little bit more common than what we were used to when we were writing a page like this on our website.
I do have to say, though, Zach seems to be marketing at least this part of his website to other photographers. I mean, he doesn't have the shop with the Lightroom presets for potential paying clients. These are for photographers, so it makes a little more sense.
And let's just click on the blog real quick. This is going to keep you within his website, but as you can see, he's heading back to Japan for the second time. Lucky Zach.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of giving you a little behind the scenes on how he's taking these incredible pictures of these animals.
I
don't know. I have to read this because I don't know how he summons these things. But one thing you'll instantly notice that we really haven't talked about, though, is you mentioned having a lot of keywords and text on your welcome page for SEO. That's really where the blog's going to kill it.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of debate in the last couple of years of whether or not you need a blog, if you should have a blog. I'm a firm believer that a blog is super valuable because it's the only place potentially on your website where you're going to have paragraphs and paragraphs of text and pictures, and it gives you the chance to tell more of a story than just your photographs. You can almost start to become a writer, which I think a lot of photographers should invest in, because now you can really not just sell your photographs, but you can sell all of the things that happen behind the scenes that you can't express just by showing the photos.
And here's the thing. If you're a commercial photographer, or in the case of Zach, like I don't even know what to call him. I would assume it's some sort of commercial photography, but you're going to have a much harder time attracting potential clients with SEO unless you're going after keywords like New York City fashion photographer, Austin, Texas real estate photographer. If you go after those type of keywords, maybe you'll win people over, but I think you're definitely going to find clients in the wedding industry or the portrait industry. If you can start writing blog posts, for instance, about the best venues in Charleston, South Carolina to get married, you are guaranteed that brides are searching for that sort of thing. And because there's not much competition when it comes to articles like that, you are guaranteed to come up first. And you will win so many more clients that way than you ever would if you didn't have a blog. Yeah, so let's go to photography and see what his portfolio looks like.
Puppies and more?
Puppies and more, let's do it.
Okay, let's be honest. This is where you're going to win your clients. When you have a portfolio full of little furry creatures and crabs.
Yeah. I would say this is a very different business route to go down and a totally different genre of photography. I think Zach is building himself up as like a fine artist almost. and maybe this isn't the type of photography you'd print and hang on your wall, but it's fine art in the sense that there's not really a client that can use any of these directly. But Zach is gaining such a following because these images are so viral that I think he's going to win over clients for other jobs that may be completely unrelated to puppies and girls. I think they're going to see the popularity of Zach's photos, and then they're going to say, Zach, we want you to shoot our car, and we're not going to put a puppy or an owl in the shot, but we love your style and we love your vision. And I think that's how a lot of people are being hired these days, rather than just getting hired to replicate the shots that are on their Instagram or on their website.
So he has a bunch of different images, portraits, Japan. Interestingly enough, the next section is called clients. And we have Buick and Honda on there.
There you go.
So why don't we see what Zach does with these bigger brands?
All right, so he has shot cars as well. And Zach, I remember him telling me that he's done some work for clients that he doesn't like sharing because he's not that interested in it, but it pays the bills. And I don't know if these car jobs are that, but I think this is how a lot of photographers' businesses are these days, you know? They shoot what they want for themselves, and then that work, because it gets so popular, then gets other more normal work.
It's the perfect example of go out and do personal projects, and eventually the commercial jobs will find you.
All right, so that wraps up the 4 websites, and I feel like there's probably a few more things that we need to talk about, just because although they were different types of photographers, it was kind of a similar Instagram-y, commercial-ish type of work that we just looked at.
Right.
A lot of photographers, maybe the majority of photographers when they're first getting started, make money with weddings and portrait photography. That's how we made our living for 10 years or more. So I think we have a lot of information to give when it comes to that genre of photography.
Yeah, so I know with wedding websites, one of the big debates is whether or not you should put what you charge on your site.
Now, none of the websites we just looked at had any pricing, but that makes sense because every job they were doing was custom.
Maybe you could put a day rate or a starting day rate. My day rate starts at $5,000, $10,000, and then you have an idea like, oh, okay, I can afford them or not, but there's a lot more details I need to call them up to.
And most photographers who are shooting commercially, who are at the caliber of those guys, are charging a licensing fee that might actually be more than their day rate.
So their day rate might be $5,000 a day, but the licensing on that shoot could be $7,000, $10,000, $20,000, and suddenly you really have to contact them to figure out all those details.
Exactly. It makes things much more complicated. So for that reason, I would suggest if you're a commercial photographer, don't put any type of pricing on your website. It's easier to negotiate on a case-by-case basis. But when it comes to wedding and portrait photography, it's a completely different thing, and here's why. You're going to be approached by clients who are all relatively the same, right? Maybe they want more time from you, but in the sense of them, you know, one client could be a local person and one client could be Nike with a commercial shooter.
Right.
A wedding is a wedding for the most part. A family shoot is a family shoot for the most part. So for me, I actually liked putting my prices on my website because it made me have to deal with less contacts from clients that were never going to book me anyway because they couldn't afford me. You know what I mean?
I think what you're saying is there's just such a difference of flow with a wedding clientele versus a commercial clientele. If you shoot commercially, you might have a handful of calls a week, a month.
Yeah.
But with weddings, you literally could have your phone ringing every single day because there's hundreds of people in your market getting married.
And it gets very annoying when you tell somebody your prices and they act offended or hang up on you because you're too expensive. And so it's just much, much easier if the only people contacting you, I have not scared them away with my prices. Now I'm going to give them 100% of my attention. I am going to try to win them over. I know they have the money to afford me.
All right. So you put your prices on your website. I think what I did, I've done several things over the years, but the last thing that I did before I kind of retired was I just had a starting price. And that allowed me to negotiate a little bit depending on how far out it is. If the wedding's a year and a half out, which is pretty standard, I would charge my regular rate, which is what I thought I was worth. But if somebody contacted me 2 weeks before their wedding and that starting price didn't scare them off, I knew that I could negotiate a little bit because in my mind, this was a job I wasn't even planning to shoot. If I was available, maybe I would give them a deal. And I just found that having the price listed, the starting price listed, it allowed only the clients that could afford me to call, but it also allowed me to upsell some of the other services that I offered.
Now, when you're first getting started, no matter what genre you're shooting, I don't think you should put your prices, because you should be talking to as many potential clients as possible, and you're going to be struggling to get these jobs, so you should be negotiating at the beginning. Don't think that you're going to start off shooting $5,000 or $10,000 weddings. Maybe you need to shoot sub $1,000 weddings at the very beginning. And so if you don't put prices down and you can talk to somebody on the phone and they say, just like you did, well, I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and you know you're not going to get booked anyway, that's when it's nice to wheel and deal.
One other thing that I did on my latest website with weddings was I actually did give people my prices, but I gave it with a price guide that you could only get by emailing me. And so what that allowed was me to get their name, their date, their phone number, just like I said before, and then they were delivered a full price guide. And so I knew that they knew my starting price, but then they got all of the information that they would want from me anyway, so I didn't have to go through and describe it all. But it also gave me kind of a trade. Like, in order to get my price guide, I got your contact information. And then with that, I could then call them, hopefully make the personal connection, make the sale. And then they had everything in front of them that they'd already, looked over for the last day or two. And if they had any questions, they could have it right there in their hand or right there on their computer.
I think that's definitely a good way to do it. Now, for some of these jobs, you're going to have to deliver photos. And for a commercial client, you might only be delivering a few, and maybe you could just deliver them via email or FTP, or you send it or whatever. When it comes to wedding and portraits, you might be delivering thousands of images, and so you're going to have to figure out how you want to do that. I know I used to use SmugMug, which was like a third-party website, and I would send people a link to the SmugMug gallery just for their wedding. With Format, you actually can create proofing galleries on your website, so people don't have to leave your website. If you decide to do that and it has all the features you need, I would say that is a better option, just because it's nice to keep people all in one place. You're not shipping them out to all these different websites for different features. Now, there's one thing that I've mentioned a few times, and these photographers really haven't been abiding by it, and that is sticking to a specific genre or specializing in one thing. And I have to say that is much more important with portrait and wedding photographers trying to be commercial photographers than it is with commercial photographers playing in a few different commercial genres. And that is because if you are getting married, this is the one time you're going to hire a photographer maybe in your life. It's the most important thing. And so you want to hire someone that specializes in wedding photography. And then on the other side of things, if you are a commercial client, you're looking to hire somebody for thousands of dollars to get your product or brand out there, there's a lot of negative stigma with wedding photographers. And, I hate to admit it, but I was one and I know it exists. And commercial clients don't like hiring wedding photographers. They want a specialist as well. So that does not mean that you can't do both, but I would highly suggest having two websites if you're going to do that. That's what I did for many years.
So, in a recap, what are some of the top things that you can do to have a successful website? I think you need to have a contact page, maybe an about page that has your picture and your face on there.
And definitely your name. I love your idea about having at least the field for the phone number so that you can call the person and stop wasting time on email. I think the number one most important thing, big, easy to navigate photos.
Yeah.
You don't want people having to click a million times to see your photos. You want it to be simple. I love that a lot of these galleries will just scroll and you can just see tons and tons of images really quickly.
Because at the end of the day, how many times do you judge a photographer in the first 5 seconds?
Oh yeah.
You might even have less than that.
Yep.
So I think the better your images are at the front and the quicker you can navigate through a bunch of images within 5 seconds, that's going to be the top 2 things you could possibly do to have a successful website.
Definitely guaranteed.
If you're a photographer who sells something like prints and you can go to a print gallery and instantly type in your information and buy it right then and there, I think that's huge.
And of course, the big thing today, guys, is that your website must be scalable in terms of which platforms it can work on. It needs to work on a computer, it needs to work on a tablet, and it needs to work on a cell phone. A lot of people are viewing websites on cell phones now. So if it doesn't look good on a cell phone or it's difficult to navigate on, I'm going to leave instantly. So big thanks to Format for sponsoring this video. If you are in need of a website, definitely check out their options. They have many different themes. They also have the online store. They have the proofing gallery. They also have a Lightroom plugin so you can upload pictures directly from Lightroom. And of course, if you just want to pay monthly, they have incredibly cheap options for that as well. If you'd like to give this a try, head over to the link in the description. You can have 2 full weeks totally for free to check this out yourself. And you'll also receive a 25% discount if you decide to buy.
If you have any other great tips on what you've implemented in your own website, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to read about what other people are doing out there that's brought them more clients and more sales.
And if you'd like more free content just like this, head over to fstoppers.com. And if you'd like to check out our full-length photography tutorials, head over to fstoppers.com/store.